If you have an ear open around a 40K table, people are always talking about the meta and how it changes. As you listen, their insights sound good, their logic is solid, but one question goes through your mind. What is the meta? I'm a tabletop hobbyist, and today I'll be defining the meta, or adding context to an amorphous blob. The meta is the generally agreed upon best practice. For example, you have a can you need to get open. You can use the meta choice of a can opener. You could use a knife, your hands, or perhaps a gun. But these aren't the best tools for your problem, and therefore they are off meta. The meta changes as new problems arise and new solutions are found. Perhaps you need to open a lot of cans, so you get an electric can opener. The first meta we can observe is the friendly meta. Suppose you only play against two friends who each play one or two armies. You have been dominant with your army until friend A makes an addition to counter your success. Seeing this work, friend B makes a similar addition, and now your friendly meta has changed. Perhaps this meta is the most natural as it develops organically as players discover new solutions to old problems. In this example, you add a Lehman Russ, your orc friend takes less Daka, more Claw. Your Sisters of Battle friend takes less Bolt Gun and more Melta. Next, we move on to the local meta. You finally expanded into playing with a larger number of players. However, they're relatively familiar players. Either this is in the form of match play or local tournaments. You've designed your army to take all comers. This style of army will normally be more competitive than your friendly meta army. This list takes into account that you never know what will be on the other side of the battlefield from you. But because of the closed nature of this meta, you can assume your army will be well prepared. Perhaps this is the most fair of all the metas, or the fairest even. Moving on, we observe the regional meta. This meta is made of players that you've never played before, and is far more competitive than all of the previous metas. It is highly reactive and can be incredibly skewed. It is often home to boogeyman lists that most players wouldn't run normally. And it's also very spammy. Not saying it's a bad thing, these lists are just highly efficient. The next meta is the national meta. This meta includes all metas beneath it. The national meta changes based on the country the event is taking place in. While a regionally competitive army from the UK will likely remain competitive in the US, the difference in terrain setup actually varies between the two countries. So in the UK, a knight army may be able to function very well. However, in the US, where it's like an open field, a knight army would not be as advantaged. This meta can also be affected by the availability of models in countries where Warhammer is less accessible, and thus access to the most competitive models is limited. This brings us to our final observable meta. The final meta is the global meta. This meta comes in the form of new codexes, rules updates, and global shutdowns. The global meta affects all metas beneath it uniquely, but simultaneously. For example, the Armor of Contempt rule for Space Marines is a change in the global meta. But if nobody in your friendly meta plays Space Marines, it has no effect. Unless you play in your local meta, which is Space Marine heavy, so you bring guns that are better at killing Space Marines with the Armor of Contempt. If you use that list again in your friendly meta and it yields worse results than before, it is an example of the uniqueness of the global meta's effect at different levels. In summary, small things have very large effects on the game of Warhammer 40K as a whole. We see this as the global meta affects everything. Perhaps the best practices for list building can be found in the regional meta. And remember, being off meta is not a bad thing. You need to play what you want to have fun. It all adds variety to the game and makes it way more enjoyable for both players. When judging the power of your list, I believe that one of the core principles should be judging the power of it at your main meta. So whatever meta you find yourself dwelling in the most often, you should aim to have a list that is high in power relative to that meta. I'm a tabletop hobbyist. Thank you for listening. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you think about this meta theory. Bye. See you next time.